Hey guys, welcome to the FitTown show. I'm Coach Tony, and today we're going to be talking about reframing. The title of this episode is Reframe Your Past to Change Your Future. So when you guys wake up in the morning and you're really sore from a workout, you can barely squat down to the toilet, what are the words that you say to yourself? Do you say, wow, this hurts so bad, I'm never doing that again, I think I'll give up on working out because that is a lot of pain to go through? Or do you say, wow, my muscles hurt from working them really hard yesterday, but I know that means the muscles are going to grow back stronger. I know that it's going to make me better, make me more able to do certain things that I want to do in my life, play with my kids, go for bike rides and hikes, and just overall make me stronger and more capable. Now, that's two ways of looking at the same situation. You could look at it as a negative thing or a positive thing. And that's really what reframing is. Reframing is being able to take the same event and place a certain perspective on it. When we reframe, we are taking external events and giving them internal significance. I'll say that again. When we reframe, we're taking external events, the things that happen to us, and give them internal significance, what they mean to us. Because I strongly believe that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to it. And a lot of us want to have better reactions. We want to be able to have better reactions to the troubles and things that come into our life, whether that be conflicts with coworkers or conflicts with our kids. We want to be the best versions of ourselves and have the best response and reactions to those situations. But reframing and taking a positive approach to certain circumstances isn't always like a light switch. It's not something we can turn on. It's not something that we can just decide we're going to do today, turn it on, and leave it on. As I said in my book, The Spectrum Mindset, this is one of those things that works on a spectrum. We get better at reframing the more we use reframing. And one of the ways I have found that works really well for me to incorporate reframing into my life is by journaling. And so that's why I titled this Reframe Your Past to Change Your Future, because I feel like journaling has influenced my life so much to where I journal about the past. I reframe it in a way that is more positive than the events that may have happened to me. And then I make better choices in the present based on that reframing, and then in turn have better choices and a better future. And so one of the stories I talk about in my book is when my son Dylan, who was born on the autism spectrum, and we had many troubles along the way through the years. But as he was really progressing and doing really well, at 8 years old, he decided that it would be a great idea to hang on the towel bar in our bathroom. And unfortunately pulled it right out of the wall and left two big giant holes in our bathroom wall that we had just renovated. We had just renovated this bathroom. And so in that moment, I wanted to get really mad, and I wanted to tell him how wrong that was to try to hang from a towel bar. And it was in that moment that I started to channel all the reframing I had done in the past and all the compassion that I had brought to my journaling. And I would journal about these conflicts and things that would happen in the past that would arise my anger and get me to yell in the moment at Dylan. And I would reframe those journal entries in a positive way and say, how would I want to act differently in the future? Or how was this actually a good experience by teaching me something rather than something that was as frustrating or anger inducing as I thought it was in the moment. And so it was over that time that I journaled about all these things that Dylan and I had went through and channeled compassion through all those journal entries, that in this moment where Dylan pulled the towel bar out of the wall, I was able to think about what the actions or what the reflection I would want to have a couple days from then, as I journaled, what would I want to be proud of in this moment? And so instead of getting angry and yelling at Dylan in that moment, I reached out my arms and gave him a hug and told him that everything was okay. And he, of course, was red-faced, tears, yelling, "Why is my body shaking?" And all he needed was someone to comfort him in that moment, because he was so scared of what he had done, and what a possible punishment might be for that. And because I had journaled so much about the prior hard times that Dylan and I had gone through together, when another one arose, I was ready for that situation. I was ready to act differently in that moment, because each time that I had journaled previously, it was an opportunity to reflect and reframe the situation so that in the next situation, I could act differently. And I did. And I was really proud of my actions in that situation. For myself, journaling has always been therapeutic. It's always been a way for me to get through tough situations, whether that be in parenting or business ownership, but just having those sheets of paper to basically talk to every morning and get your thoughts down on the events that you went through, I think was huge for me in my experience. So I can't encourage journaling enough. I believe it's the best form of free therapy that you can provide yourself when you journal and start to reframe your situations. So when you're journaling and when you're reframing these situations, there's 3 things I really want you to think about when we do this. The first one is gratitude. The second, looking at experiences as experiments. And then the third one, just flipping the negative to the positive. So the first one with gratitude, and again, talking back to my experiences with my son, every hard situation, I always ask, what am I grateful for? Even the hardest times, the hardest situations together, I always tried to find something that I was grateful for in that moment, in that experience. And through that process of journaling about things that I was grateful for in times where you wouldn't expect to be thankful for anything, I actually found more things that were given to me to be grateful for in the future. So whether or not I was given more things to be grateful for, or just noticed the things that were already there, it was a pretty cool and rewarding experience to have more things that I could be grateful for in my life. The second thing is that we often think about our experiences as pass or fail, black or white, and those failures or those bad experiences can really stick with us and keep us from doing things in the future, keep us from taking risks in the future, and really put a negative hold on our life and a negative hindrance on our life. And when we reframe these obstacles as just experiments and not put so much pressure on ourselves to pass or fail, I think we get a lot out of that reframing process. And I think we become more resilient when we get in the habit of reframing. The failures don't mean as much because we're just looking at them as experiments and learning opportunities. There was a couple months ago where Roger Federer, the tennis champion, had a speech at Dartmouth, and he talked about how great it is to get okay with failure and being a tennis pro. And I'll read his quote real quickly because it's really good. And he says, "In tennis, perfection is impossible. In the 1,526 singles matches that I played in my career, I won almost 80% of those matches. Now I have a question for you. What percentage of points do you think I won in those matches? Only 54%. In other words, even top-ranked tennis players win barely more than half of the points they play." This is still him talking. "When you lose every second point on average, you learn not to dwell on every shot. You teach yourself to think, okay, I double faulted, and it's only a point. Okay, I came to the net and got passed again. It's only a point. Even a great shot, an overhand backhand smash that ends up on ESPN's top 10 playlist, that too is just a point. So here's why I'm telling you this. When you're playing a point, it has to be the most important thing in the world, and it is. But when it's behind you, it's behind you. The mindset is really crucial because it frees you to fully commit to the next point and the next point after that with intensity, clarity, and focus. The truth is, whatever game you play in life, sometimes you're going to lose a point, a match, a season, or a job. But negative energy is wasted energy. You want to become a master at overcoming hard moments. That is, to me, the sign of a champion. The best in the world, and not the best because they win every point. It's because they know they'll lose again and again, and have learned how to deal with it. So back to me talking, but I am a big fan of reframing failure, especially with my kids, because with kids, they can get into this place where they become really afraid to fail. They get afraid to sign up, and I know I was this as a kid. I was really afraid to sign up, for that next sports team or for that tournament that I was afraid we were just going to lose in. Kids can get really timid in trying new things because they're afraid to fail. And one of the things we'll always say in our Fit Kids class and encourage my own kids to do is, if you ever find yourself saying the words, I can't, let's finish that sentence with I can't yet. And so anytime that we have a negative thought, I can't do this, I don't know if I can do that, let's just say I can't yet, or I don't know if I can do that yet. And that little reframe of just adding a couple extra words without finishing that sentence and making it finite, I think is really important for everyone, kids especially, their mentality and taking on new challenges. And so the last thing I want to talk about with reframing is that I just want you to realize that it's not your fault to have negative thoughts. We often see the negative first because our brains are just meant to pick out threats and keep us alive. And so we pick out the negative things as anything that's a threat to our survival or often our ego. But things that feel like they threaten us, that's what we attach to or see most clearly. And then also, negative thoughts tend to stick with us the most. You can get 100 great book reviews, but that one book review that says it was boring is going to stick with you more than those 100 great reviews. It's just the nature of our human thoughts. And so it's really important that through this reframing practice is that we can get quicker at catching negative thoughts. Just like the last example where I said in Fit Kids, we say, I can't yet. That takes a process of catching yourself and realizing, oh, I just said something negative. I said something limiting. Let me reframe those words. But it doesn't happen instantly. Sometimes you don't recognize it until the next day when you're journaling. An exercise that you could do if you were trying to be proactive about negative thoughts and not just wait for negative thoughts to happen and say, oh, I'm going to try to catch it next time it comes around. Actually sit down and write 5 negative thoughts that you have said about you. And it could be, in my world, it would be, I'm not as good as of a writer as some of the authors I admire, or I'm not as strong as other athletes in my gym. I'm not a good enough dad to my kids. And just write out all these negative thoughts and then work on reframing them one by one with their positive truths, because they really are truths. Often our negative thoughts are just lies, and we need to then insert the truth into those statements. So if I were doing this, I would say, I am a great writer, capable of selling millions of books. I am incredibly strong and fit at 40 and proud of the body that I've built. And I give everything I have to my kids every single day. Those are the truths of my life. When you're doing this exercise, think about the advice you would give to a friend. Because often we don't really give the best advice to ourselves and we don't have the best thoughts about ourselves. Like I said, we just tend to focus on the negative more than the positive. But think about someone you love, someone you care about. Maybe it is your kids. What positive words would you tell them? Because you love them so much. What would you tell your daughter if she said she was a crappy writer? What would you tell your son if he said he was out of shape and unhappy with his body? I think often we can find ways to be compassionate for others when we need to be able to find that compassion for ourselves. So next time you guys are working on reframing, think about bringing gratitude into the picture. Think about failures just being experiments and learning experiences. Think about how we are primed to think negatively and how we have to be proactive have positive thinking, and do this as a practice. Make this something that you do with the journal every day. Start reframing your past experiences, retell them to yourself in a more positive way. Talk about how you would handle them differently in the future or what you learned from the experience. And then watch that past reframing prime your current actions and change your future. Keep living life to the fittest. Until next time, take care.